Good afternoon once again. This is Ukraine Media Center Odesa. We continue with our briefings, and now we will talk about how Odesa condominiums, Odesa residents prepared to the energy collapse that we have been witnessing for the last 2 days. Before that, we also faced power supply issues, and they said that we had to prepare to possible damages to critical infrastructure by Russian shelling. Today we have with us Iryna Bardina, chairperson of the board of the Balkivska 20 condominium, and Stanislav Draganov, president of the Association for Innovative Development of Households. Stanislav also serves in the armed forces of Ukraine, and we're thankful to him for what he does for the country and for him to be able to come to us today. So please prepare how condominiums prepared for the war and what condominiums are doing now. Good afternoon. You can speak Russian if it's more convenient for you to speak Russian. Oh, I will speak Ukrainian, so it's up to you to decide. Stanislav will start. Yes, I will be the first to introduce the topic. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Stanislav Draganov. I'm the president of the Association for Innovative Development of Households. You see that I'm wearing military uniform because from the first days I was there protecting the borders of our homeland. And I would also like to remind to everyone that it is very important. So if you're summoned for the military service, please be there, because we need men and women to be able to fight the Russia's aggression on our territory. As for the main topic of our today's briefing, I'm the president of the association. Keep the contact with the representatives of different condominiums. We have our own chat where we discuss what we can do for winterization, what should be bought, what it's better not to buy, if there is a support from the municipal services and the municipal council. So I can cover all these topics today. I would like to remind that in Odesa we have more than 9,000 block of flats, and we have condominiums only in 15% of them. The rest, 85%, are managed by all types of municipal bodies, and we have around 5% which are managed by the companies or by the constructing companies. So the condominiums anyway manage to inform their residents and what is the the main topics of their discussion. If it is advisable to buy these belly ovens at home, I would not recommend this to you for the houses, because you need firewood for this, and this can cause fires in the blocks of flats. So what I would recommend for you to install in your apartments is generators. I understand that they are expensive, but for example, in Lviv there is the municipal support for the condominiums where the part of these expenses are covered by municipal authorities. And in Lviv, they use the benzene generators, and they actually use them outside of the houses. And I would like to remind that this is not safe to install such generators at homes or even on your bankalas. So these generators can be rented by the residents for their use. In Odessa, we've recently had a gas explosion, and as we were informed, that was to the fact that the residents of an apartment bought gas balloons, but they didn't know how to use them, leading to the explosion. So now we are not talking only about the opportunity to save money, but you should think first about your safety and security. You can also use the tourist store with a small gas balloon, and you can use it to cook some soup or some other meals. This type of device is protected, and they're quite cheap compared to generators, and you can use them in every house, in every apartment. Iryna can perhaps add something about her condominium. How do you cope with cold weather? Do you have a generator, gas generator? Have you discussed this with your residents? Is it warm in your house, in your condominium? How it works in general? So as for winterization, in such difficult conditions, I can say the following. Before the war, it was impossible to get ready to this. But for us, for managers of condominiums, we understand that every day we should be prepared to emergency situations. Because in general, there is no communication with local authorities. They do not cooperate with us, they do not support us, and we wish that it was possible to develop such cooperation with municipal authorities, because we should take into consideration what was the condition of the buildings that were handed over to the management of condominiums after under the relevant law. It was difficult for us to start working there because their technical condition was very poor. That's why from the very beginning, when we started managing the houses in our condominiums, tried to take our own efforts to bring them to the standards. What we did in my condominium: first, there was an inventory and inspection of the house to understand the condition of the premises when it was handed over from the municipal authority. And we inspected everything: the apartments, the additional premises, basements, and overall communications. And it took a lot of efforts, and we started the process from such inspection. Then we started cleaning the basement, the attics. We started repairing all the communication systems. So we can say that we started the process of preparation even before the war, although we never knew that we were preparing to the war. And I can also say that we are more or less ready, because our basements, our attics are clean now. We have we have changed almost all pipelines and other communication systems in the basement. We have no problem with the power supply. We have the transformer to ensure the power supply in the house. We also ensured the water supply in case of fire. But we have only one entrance to the basement. Although, according to the national standards, we need to have at least every two exits or entries and exit at different points of the basement for people to be able to leave the premises immediately if it's needed. I'm just interested in what could be done just before the war and right after the war with the first shellings in Odesa. Did you have the water stocks in the basement? Can people stay for a long time in the basement as in a bomb shelter? And do you know the experience of other condominiums in terms of these issues? I can say that as for the water stocks, we have prepared them long ago. Long ago in condominium, we always have the water reserves in our basement. There is place to put chairs and beds there. From the first day of the martial law, the residents of our house could spend time in the basement. We have also ensured the internet connection there. Some families, large families with children, even spend nights there. So they spend generally a lot of time there. They could stay there up to one day. I cannot tell you about other buildings, especially the buildings which are managed by the municipal authorities, the municipal management companies. But there is, for example, an interesting fact that the residents of the neighboring house, managed by the municipal company, asked me if they are allowed to get to our basement during air alert. So they wanted to get my permission first. And of course, I wondered why they couldn't use their premises of their house. And they answered that unfortunately that premises were very dirty, there were no power supply or electricity there, and that they would prefer to stay in our basement. Stanislav, perhaps you can speak about the whole situation in Odesa in terms of the bomb shelters, generators, or some alternative power supply systems. I was shocked to know that, for example, a lot of modern houses do not have water supply because there is a power cut. So what is the general state? I would like to say that we do not have the like full-fledged bomb shelters in Odesa. We have some, so to say, shelters where you can hide for a short period of time in case there is some debris or projectiles. But these places are not protected by from the direct strike of a missile. I can speak about one condominium, which is in Spiridomovskaya Street. And in that condominium, the basement is somehow managed by municipal authorities. But anyway, the residents of the house, they cleaned the basement, they ensure the power supply there. And now they're considering the possibility to install the solar batteries there or to use the petrol generators. So they've been discussing the topic with the residents. Is this the basement that was demonstrated in the local news? No, that is the one which is close to the basement. Actually, the basement was then inspected by the representatives of Housing and Maintenance Office of the Municipal Council, and they were shocked that it was too clean, very clean, and actually they asked if they could allow people from their houses to get there. Because people have nowhere to hide from the possible direct strike of the projectile. Well, there is a water supply, but what people should do if there is no electricity, if there is no heat in the house, and if there is no way out, if it's only one exit in the basement, That's why Iryna is right when she says that the basement should have 3 exits, and the condominium I've mentioned in Spiridonovskaya have 3 actually exits in their basement, and even a rocket hits the house in question, people will be able to get out of the basement using different exits. And I would like to emphasize once more that basement is just a basement. It can protect people from debris, but that's it. And I have a question now to municipal authorities why they say and name the basements first bomb shelters, and why they think that basements are in the ownership of the municipal authorities. And the Spiridonovskaya condominium initiated a court proceeding after the full-scale war started, and they got to the cassation level. Just for the municipal authorities not to take these basements from them. And you should also remember that municipal authorities did nothing to make this basement more or less similar to bomb shelters for people to be safe there. I remember that at the beginning of war, the official sources published the bomb, the list of shelters, but not like bomb shelters, more like basements. And there was quite an extensive map. Some of the basements are in clinics, others are in schools, like municipal ownership. Do you have some information about the amount of such basements, shelters, and what is their condition? Can they be used? Thank you very much for your question, because out of the condominiums that I've mentioned, around 1,300 are located in the central part of Odesa. And we understand that these are old buildings that have no basements in their construction. This means that around 30% of the number of mentioned have at least basements that can be used as bomb shelters. So 30% of 2,300 buildings which are the part of condominiums. I do not have the information about the houses managed by Housing and Maintenance Office. So you see that this number is very low, and if we have severe missile shelling, it is a question where people can hide. We've been discussing bomb shelters now, and this was a very important topic at the beginning of the war. But now we are facing winter. We do not know what the situation we can expect in the future. How many condominiums have alternative energy sources? Was it a problem before, and how many of them have at least generators now? It was not a problem in the past, but there was the issue that we've been trying to solve starting from 2014. And this is the question to the overall condition of the electric cables, because many of them are still made from aluminum, and it is very flexible, it is inflammable easily, and this is quite dangerous for the residents of these houses. That's why we have initiated the program to inspect the electric supply system in the city in general. And we can see now that there is kind of a chaos with this blackout, because it is very difficult to speak about the state of the power supply system in houses, in the buildings. We do not have the general information. And actually, we have the power supply company, which is responsible for the whole electric stations. And actually, it is we can say that condominiums are responsible only for the networks which are in the houses belonging to the condominium and in the apartments. And how many Odesa condominiums have alternative energy sources? Less than 1%. Around 3-4 condominiums have now transformers that ensure the power supply and generators, but they use it just to charge the batteries. You mentioned some of the programs in Lviv, and actually there is such program in Kyiv, where the local authorities compensate part of the cost of the generators. Can you tell a few more details about this program? And this is quite a simple program. The condominium should apply to the municipal authority, providing the specification for the device they want to install. This application is submitted to the special committee for the inspection, and if everything's fine with the document, part of the cost is compensated, if I am not mistaken, 50% in Lviv and 75% in Kyiv. How they did this through the budget committee, I don't know. I don't know the whole details of this program, but when it comes to the residents of the condominiums, the system is quite simple. We don't have such program in Odesa, and I believe that we should have one. We should implement it for the people to be able to survive such unexpected blackouts as we have now. And I would like to emphasize that condominiums will still own such generators after the war. And yes, you are right. This is the financial support for this device to stay in a condominium after the war. And do you have a generator? And what is the amount of investment for the condominiums in Odesa? Unfortunately, we don't have such a generator, and for us, it is quite a significant investment. But we have been considering this possibility, at least to be able to cover the technical needs for the house, namely electricity and elevators. We have a 14-story building, and everything depends on electricity there. Even the stove and ovens are electric there. So if there is no power supply, there can be no life in such a house. So you cannot even warm up your meals without electricity. Pumps do not work in the boiler room. And that's why it is very important for us to have such a generator. And I believe that our local authorities should try to find solution to this issue and to look at the experience of other cities of our country. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the floor? If yes, then please don't forget to use the microphone. My name is Maria Lidatska, Digest Odesa. Have you calculated how much money you should spend for a generator for a 14-story building? Because the residents will pay for this. Right. We have considered different options. If we need a generator to cover the technical needs of the house, so they mentioned the elevators and the power supply, that was around 200,000 hryvnias. We just need to calculate. So the general amount is 200,000 hryvnias, and you have around 84 apartments. So you can just calculate how much money we need. I can also say that I'm representing the Progress condominium, and I can say that it is very difficult to calculate the exact amount. Because the amount of residents is different from that we had before the war, because now we have less people, less residents, and it is very difficult to say the exact amount of people staying in Odesa, and it is even more difficult to calculate how many people are able to pay for such a generator. When it comes to people's mentality, we can say that now people are not ready to pay money for such a generator because they think that they will live and stay in a cottage house, in a summer house, if there are some water or power supply problems. But not all people have such summer cottages. And some people, like retired people, old people, are not able to cover such expenses by themselves. And that's why And actually, I don't think that it is right to make people pay for this when it comes to different types of generators or kind of Boolean stoves. And when it comes to standards, we cannot put stoves in our shelters as an alternative heating device because carbon just tends to get to lower layers and it is dangerous. Of course, we could install ventilation there to avoid this. But according to our calculations, the firewood that we can get will be able only to cover the 2 or 3 days. But we should speak about centralized heating system, about evacuation if there is lack of heating supply, there is no heating in the house for more than 3 or 4 days. There are some people that do not want to leave their apartments regardless of what. Usually, these are old people that for whom it's psychologically difficult to leave their place of residence. And even if there is no heating, people say that they will stay there in a cold apartment. And we need to remember about such people. Thank you. Stanislav, I have a question to you now. If we make a list of what Odesa condominiums and managing companies which are responsible for the most houses in our city should do now for Odesa residents to be better prepared to the winter under the conditions of possible shelling of the city and the infrastructure. We can speak about the main items. First of all, they should inspect their houses. We recommended to do this before the war, because if you don't know the condition of your house, your basement, your communication networks, it is difficult to say what you should do. First, for this house to be able to deal with the changes in power supply or blackouts or water supply cuts, etc. When it comes to technical considerations, you should define the source to charge your batteries. People can buy solar panels and just for them to be used to charge the batteries. And the batteries can be used to charge the devices people have, the gadgets people have. This is what we do at the front line now. If this condominium has certain funds, they can think about possibility of buying petrol generator. And people, of course, should think where to buy such generator, where to buy petrol, where to store the petrol, and how much petrol they need for people to be able to charge their devices, at least to communicate with their relatives. And Iryna mentioned the generator they wanted to buy, and such generator could support the operation of elevators and energy supply. That's why it is so expensive. So we have big and small generators. And at least, yes, you've mentioned the new buildings where there is no water supply, if there is no electricity. Why is it so? Because they use the pump stations to pump water to these buildings. The buildings of question actually have the networks which cannot cover the possibility of water supply to the highest store. That's why they need the pump stations. And some of the building companies have water reserves and reservoirs in the basement of such houses, which are connected to the generators. So there the water supply is possible, but we don't have many houses like these in the city. So you need to address to your managerial company to understand if you have such water reservoirs in the basement, and if there are pump stations, and if there is a generator to ensure the operation of such pump stations. And after getting this information, you can buy with your fellow residents a generator that will at least ensure the pumping of water to your apartment. Do we have any other questions? No. In this case, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for discussing such an important topic today. Thank you. We will continue today. And in half an hour, we will have volunteers that provide assistance and support to Kherson and the Kherson Oblast. One volunteer will be in person, and 2 other volunteers will be online. So see you in half an hour.